Alrighty, I think it is about time we started working on this 1965 Ford Mustang, the Iron Horse. I have been neglecting that thing for the better part of, well, a year, maybe a little more now. Uh, yeah, I'm going to show you what I got going on with that because it's all torn apart right now. But what we are mainly going to be focusing on today is tunnel ram and nitrous at that. So, as I said, this is our 1965 Ford Mustang project, the Iron Horse. Now, this we have not, this hasn't been on the road for about 2 years at this point because we pulled out its engine about 2 falls ago, and then we were going to rebuild it over the winter and stick it in the spring. Well, that never ended up happening. We finally got the engine slammed in this thing last fall, and I've been fighting with it ever since. Let me show you what I got going on. Now what you're looking at is our 302 engine build. It's a 40 over 302, so it's a 308, small block Windsor. And it's got a Anderson N41 camshaft in it. It's got Chinese, really cheap roller lifters. It's got these fancy roller rockers and yada yada yada. Fancy valve covers. Look at all them. Look at all my stickers, right? But all those stickers really didn't do me any good because this thing was not running quite right. Now, we were in a mad rush to get this thing put in, and I wanted to get it up and running before last fall happened, which didn't end up working. I got it running. It fired right up, but unfortunately, it was running really rough. There was an audible misfire, a fairly consistent misfire. My vacuum gauge right here, that needle was wagging at me, so something wasn't happy. I didn't know what it was, but I heard this really weird, mechanical tapping sound, right? You can imagine it, right? Right? So I assumed that the bad, the running rough and the mechanical sound were interlinked. So I tore this thing apart to see what I could see. Now, unfortunately, I didn't really see anything. Everything looks great. The head, which is over there behind the door, which you can't see, these are AFR Renegade 165cc cylinder heads that have had some porting done to them. They had slight porting in the ports, some bowl work, and larger 202 intake valves put into them. That all looked good. Now, what I believe my sound are these cheap Chinese roller lifters. The link bars are loose on them, right? So I believe that sound combined with, I don't have it anymore. Well, it had a header gasket. When I pulled the header gasket out, I seen it was all blown out. So header gasket combined with those, combined with the fact that we flipped the pistons on this engine. We moved the pistons from bank to bank, rotating it, upside down. It's supposed to give better angularity to the crankshaft, get a little more snappiness. I don't know if it actually does anything or not, but what it can do is it can give a little bit of noise when it's cold. All 3 of those things combined, I think, was my mystery sound, and I wasn't prepared for it. So I don't believe that actually had anything to do with my misfire. So there. Which is really good because I was very terrified that my very expensive cylinder heads were going to be, I was afraid I, bent the valves because piston and valve clearance has been an issue with this whole motor build from the beginning. Those larger 202 intake valves, trying to get pistons that'll work with them, on a budget, not easy. Facebook Marketplace Special is basically the name of the game of this whole engine. So fitting all these pieces together has been a struggle. But I don't believe, that wasn't my problem. So that's a good thing. Now we had this Edelbrock Performer RPM air gap manifold along with our Demon 750 carburetor on this engine. The heads and the intake are actually port matched together, so that's why we used them. But in saying that, we are going to change it up. Like I said, we're working on tunnel ram because that tunnel ram's been on the back burner for a long time, and I just really want to get it on the car. So I figured this is the perfect opportunity to do so, but that needs some work. We have a pair of Carter AFB Competition Series 500 CFM carburetors going to go on top of that tunnel ram, by the way. And there's that cylinder head looking all nice and pretty over there. And here is our tunnel ram, along with our nitrous system and, the die grinder that we're going to be, making good use of here in just a moment. Let me just take these things off. Now, this tunnel ram, also a Facebook Marketplace special, is actually a fairly unique unit. It has some porting done to it already, not done by me. If you can see in there, it's kind of hard to see with the lighting the way it is, but you can see somebody came in here and started doing a little work. And it must have been fairly serious because right down here, you can see it was plumbed for a hidden nitrous system that has been since plugged up with JB Weld. We're going to do something about that too, because that's a little sketchy to me. See, it's got a little thing to catch the silicone too. Fancy. But what I want to do with this thing is I want to come in here and clean up the ports. As you can see, now that I got some light in, I think I can do a few improvements on this to really just kind of make them a little better. That, and I want to get rid of all this silicone that's currently holding the top and the bottom pieces together. I unscrewed it thinking that I was just going to pop off the top and be good, but I can't get this sucker apart. That silicone is sealed. So I figured, that's a good thing. At least I know that's, working good. So I'm just going to leave it and port it as is. But, yeah. Now the improvements we're going to do to this thing are as follows. I want to clean up the transition between this top and bottom, because right now there's little ledges, like they don't actually perfectly match. Now, before you say anything, this top is on backwards, okay? Because when I had it on, the way it's supposed to be, the ledge was way worse. So I flipped it around because it actually lined up better backwards than it did forwards. But it's still not great. So I'm going to go in and clean that transition up and make it nice and smooth. Then I'm going to come up here on the top. Right where the ports open, like where these 4 ports are, open into this plenum area here. I'm going to drill little divots. I'm going to basically golf ball dimple like the very top. Like not in the port, but the plenum area above the port. Now what that's going to do is twofold. It's going to create little air eddies inside of that, those dimples, kind of funneling the air down into the port so it doesn't wander too much. Also what it's going to do is any raw fuel that happens to puddle up around the top of the ports, it'll get caught in those dimples and then it'll get sheared off into the port rather than just drip into the port. So that'll help with fuel atomization. So that's what we're going to do up top. Now down towards the bottom, we're also going to do a few things. Now this JB Weld patch job that they did, it's almost like a rivet of JB Weld, right? It's got a big welt up top in the port, and then it's got a big welt on the bottom, kind of locking it in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come and I'm going to smooth out that welt inside the port. I'm going to make that smooth so it's not, just this big notch right in the bottom of the port. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with some silicone, same stuff I used to glue this thing together, and I'm just going to seal this JB Weld. It probably doesn't need it. It's probably airtight the way it is. But I'm really sketched out about having mystery vacuum leaks that I can't solve. And I feel like that is a potential for one. So I'm just going to come and, cap it off with a little bit of silicone just to seal these things up from the bottom. Then what I am going to do is I'm going to rough up the very bottom of these ports. Like this area right here, I'm going to rough up the bottom. And there's a good reason for it. So now if you look down this port, this is, the way the fuel's going to be looking at it. The fuel and air mixture is going to accelerate down, gain speed, and probably slam right into this bottom here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to texture all of this bottom, rough it up a little bit. That way, just like the golf ball dimple effect, it kind of, lifts the fuel air mixture off the bottom and keeps it, in line up top here. I don't want it slamming down and puddling up down here. So with all that being said, I'm going to start getting to work on this thing, and I'll show you what I get done as I get done. All right, check out what I got. Now you can, get a little more visual on what I was talking about, right? I got it basically smoothed out. I could do more, but I think I'm going to leave that as is. That's what it was before. Well, I guess you can't really notice, but you can feel the difference. Now, the golf ball dimples, as you see, you're not just golf ball dimpling willy-nilly anywhere. I mean, they work so long as you put them in the proper location, like all around the entrance, and right where the fuel is going to smash into the bottom of the port is where I put them. All right, so now I gotta do that side, and yeah, then we'll be closer to done. Pretty nifty though, isn't it? It looks pretty sweet, pretty swanky. All right, I think I'm done. All right, time to clean her up a little bit. And actually, we can experiment. And, yeah, right like that. See how the air-fuel mixture would stick to the bottom of that port? That's why we put the dimples there. And there's the finished product. Well, obviously, I got to figure out how to route the nitrous system and all that. And I got to get my other velocity stack, but check it out. Oh yeah, so much nicer. That's gonna work really good. Oh, that's gonna look so sweet. Although I don't think my velocity stack's actually gonna fit. Nope. Oh well, the actual thing fits. So, but still sweet. So there we go. Tunnel ramp's ready to be put on. I just got to find some time to throw this thing back together, and we'll see what it does. But yeah, until then, I'll catch you next time. I gotta go take a shower. I am covered in aluminum shavings.